Yeah, hi, good evening, everybody. Okay, so I have the daunting task of keeping everybody engaged, this being the last session. And I hope with my elite panelists, we'll be able to keep the discussion interesting. Because I think the topic is also as interesting, primarily saying how is the emerging technology enabled supply chains are boosting operations, right? So one of the points is what is an emerging technology? Something that we saw in US, Europe 10 years back still is considered emerging here. But and therefore probably we'll delve through the breadth of these technologies with these elite panels, most of them being users of these technologies, some of them involved in developing the products also. So, and when we talk about boosting operations and supply chain, there are multiple aspects of these supply chain operations. We talk about supply chain right from planning, then we go into the downstream warehousing. Warehouse has a lot of automation, tech and other things there. Then there is a transportation piece, which is one of the biggest pieces, which has gained a lot of importance lately, especially in a country like India where we have multiple challenges on the infrastructure also. And then there are overarching things about systems to manage each of these components. And that is where the technologies involved in managing multiple systems across these spheres of operations also come into picture. So hopefully what we'll do is, over the course of the next an hour or so, we'll try to touch upon all these aspects and technology touching all these aspects and how some of these emerging technologies are changing the landscape of supply chain operations. And while we are talking about this, I think, like we discussed, we thought road transportation and road safety is one of the very important aspects of India in Indian economy, and this thing where we want to kind of reduce the logistics cost as a percentage of GDP from 12, 13, 14% to under in single digits. So what we are trying to, the way we are trying to structure the session is we'll have a presentation from Amit, who's part of Nature and Technology, and they are using some of the very, very good technologies in trying to improve road safety and other things. So instead of me telling about what they do, I would request Amit to kind of give us a brief about what they are doing, and then probably we'll try to navigate the other parts of the supply chain. Yeah. Amit, if you can.
Thank you, Ravi. So my name is Amit. I'm from marketing. So when a marketer comes to the podium, the first thing he looks at that he needs a PPT. So there you go. I'm not a technologist, so cannot fix it. So while it comes in, the two words that I'm being, okay, let's watch it. I hope it's. Okay, leave the audio part, you play it like that. Okay. This is what happens on Indian roads daily. Data says that we are losing about 450 lives per day on Indian roads. Now, this truck, could be carrying your own goods if you're a supply chain professional. It could be your truck if you're a transporter or a logistics person, right? And you would never get to know that what was the underlying issue. This video was captured by a biker through his helmet. So that's how we got it. But reality, you never get to know, right? Now, this is what I'm going to talk about today, that how you can really make your transportation ecosystem a little more safer. I'm not saying 100% safe. Nothing is possible on that front, but little more safer on the road by the use of technology. That's what I'm going to talk about. But now the question may be that why should I be bothered? You know, I'm into supply chain, right? I have outsourced my transportation to third party. I don't care. That person takes care of it, end-to-end responsibility. In the morning, there was a session where one of the speakers in the inaugural session spoke about the cost of an accident. Does anyone remember that figure? What was that? Anyone remembers? $150,000. Wow, you have got amazing memory. About 1.2 CR, right? Despite the insurance being, paying a part of it, correct? You still have downtime. You still have to arrange the backup goods if an accident of this sort happens. Human life has got no value, by the way, on top of it, right? So if these are your own goods, which are seized by the authorities, whose loss is this? It is yours. If you're a transporter, it is directly impacting your downtime, litigation, insurance cost, compensation, loss of lives and whatnot. So I think it matters to all of us. I'll not get into it, you all know it, why transportation is complex and what and where it hits you. Cargo security, real-time tracking beyond GPS. GPS is an old-fashioned technology now, right? You can track and trace. It's been there, but is it efficient enough? Probably not, right? Operational cost, legal cost. Once your vehicle is seized, your goods are seized, right? I mean, forget if it is damaged completely. That's a pure play loss, right? Engaging with multiple transporters. If I'm supply chain head of a company in, let's say, in FMCG sector, I might have 100 transporters. How do I manage all of them? How do I know which one is good beyond the delivery time? That's the only way we measure the performance. That what is the delivery time? But there are other KPIs. We have been hearing about sustainability since morning. I think must be about 100 times or more. We might have heard that word in the morning, right? So how much emission the trucks and the vehicles that our goods carrying vehicles are emitting? Do we know that? There's another angle to sustainability. All of you have heard about UN sustainability goals? Everybody? UN SDP? While the entire world knows it as environment green, there are other angles. And one of the other angles is saving lives on road, through road accidents which are happening, saving lives. That's a part of UN SDP goal number 3.6. Please check it out. So sustainability is not limited to only green, because green will help us save our tomorrow. But if I die today on the road, what will I do with the tomorrow? Nothing. So that's where UN has got very clear, demarked goals. And of course, it does impact your brand. So what we are seeing, we are a tech company. We are enabling the transporters, the supply chain departments with a complete visibility of your cargo on the road while it leaves your campus, because outside the road there's a lot that can happen which cannot be in your control, right? Complete visibility of it. Now, how does it happen? Imagine, how many of you are looking at phone right now? At least 10? At least 10 of us? Imagine if you're a driver on the road. 8 hours, which is not real, it is 12 or 14 hours. They're also human. They get distracted by the phones when it buzzes. WhatsApp. I saw one driver yesterday, watching literally, a video. It was placed just below the steering, and he was watching it while navigating through the traffic. They are human. They get distracted. So you need someone who can coach and monitor that behavior and say, hey, you're doing wrong. This is not right. This can be catastrophic. This can be hazardous. Do something about it. So that's the computer vision technology. While some of the countries have made it mandatory, unfortunately, we as a country are lagging behind. And I'm sure in the next couple of years, this will become a regulation for us all of us to have it, because you cannot have cops in every nook and corner of the road. We have got 64 uh, lakh kilometers of road network in India and about 80,000 traffic cops. Not possible. So you need something which is sitting in the vehicle to analyze every second of driving and reducing the accidents, right? How do we do it? I'm just going a little faster because I know the clock is ticking. There are multiple levels of tech which is involved. All of us are aware about telematics, which has been there for about good 20 years. You add a layer of vision on top of it. Now, telematics tells you that harsh braking is a bad behavior. Hard acceleration is a bad behavior. But sometimes it is required. Someone came in front of my vehicle. I have no option but to apply the brake. Now, telematics will tell you this is the wrong behavior. Vision on top of it will analyze it and say, hey, you have delivered a good behavior because otherwise you would have run over someone. That's the power of vision-based technology. And then AI does all the algorithm. Now, you may say, I've got, let's say, 1,000 trucks, 1,000 vehicles running all throughout the day. How can I monitor all of this? This is where the AI comes into the picture. While it is real-time calculating and analyzing the driving, it also enabling you with the incidents which matter to you, which you should be looking at. Otherwise, not so severe, you can ignore it, you can review it on your monthly review or something. So these are two layers, vision-based ADAS, driver monitoring system. This morning, my cab dropped me here. When we entered the hotel, I removed my seat belt just to put on my jacket. I bought a new jacket which was looking so fancy. I thought, let me flaunt it when I get down from the cab. The seat belt beep started. And it continued till I had to buckle up the seat belt again. All of us have this in most of our cars. Now what do drivers do, commercial truck drivers? Piche wala jugaad, kuch hua, you have to compensate. Now you need someone who can analyze ki bhai, this is the right way of buckling up or not. This is where the technology comes. I fell asleep, I'm drowsy, I'm fatigued, I'm tailgating, I'm overspeeding, right? All these behaviors are real-time monitored, and the driver is alerted real-time in the cabin. That's number one. Number two, the fleet manager, the safety manager, or the supply chain, whoever manages the transporters, can also be intimated about it. That this is the severe alert, please do something about it, right? And the third part, which is the topmost in the pyramid, is the cloud-connected intelligent driver monitoring system, which gives you the holistic view of all of your trips, all of your vehicle movement, all of your drivers in one simple dashboard so that you know what's happening. So in a nutshell, basic telematics, basic GPS, all that plugged in, you're kind of consolidating all those technologies into one, which is much more powerful and much more better. Now, what do you do with that? It's so tough to consume this information. Now, we have gone a level ahead where we calculate a score basis your driving. How many of you heard about CIBIL score? CIBIL, CIBIL. Everybody, right? It is calculated on the basis of the way you deal with your banks and your financial institutions. Similar way, the way you drive on the road, we are analyzing every second of your driving. Every second, the way you're driving is calculated, and then a number is calculated, which is called driving score. And that will be a reality where all of us will have to have. Government of India is looking into it. We have the technology, which can measure, because I can drive very well when it comes to, in a controlled environment where I'm applying for license. But when I go on the road, reality is something else, right? So let's see, Amazon is one of the, and I know we have got a gentleman, Ankush here, but let's see what Amazon has to say about this kind of technology, which they use in several of the countries.
DSP owners like Dennis get real-time alerts if their drivers exhibit patterns of unsafe behavior.
The in-vehicle safety technology we have watches for poor safety behaviors like distracted driving, seatbelts not being fastened, running stop signs, traffic lights. We've seen over the past year that a reduction of 80 to 95% in these events when we've warned drivers real time. But the really game-changing results that we've seen have been almost a 50% reduction in accidents.
What surprises me is that those countries where we have deployed this technology, the accident rate is less than 5% of what we face as a country in India. So there is a lot that we can do. And Amazon does not own any of the fleets. This is being outsourced. So that's how they're managing it. And let's see how it works. This is another one, a real example how it works actually. The top view, what you see is the outward view, the road-facing view. The bottom half is the inward, the cabin view. Let's see, the guy is driving at a good speed on a highway. Seems slightly drowsy. His phone buzzes, and he's informed that there's something in front of you. Imagine if he was not informed, we would not have this video in this shape. It would have been in a very different shape. This is the power of technology. This is what it does on the road. Another one. On top you say driver distracted. He's been alerted. The bottom mic button you see, he's kept the phone down. This is what happens. We are human, right? I'll skip this, but yeah, there are number of cases like this. Good adoption, and I think we as a country can make Indian roads much safer if you look at it more responsibly and really owning it, not just leaving it with your transporter or your logistics partners. Thank you so much, Ravi.
Thank you, Amit. Thank you very much. I think what Amit showed, some of us have seen it, some of us have experienced it, but the level and the impact of those things is at a different level when we see it in that form, and the form which Amit kind of exposed her. So yes, I think as we are moving in this direction from an economic perspective and other things, it's very important, imperative that we work on these things, and hopefully the entire ecosystem will come in place to kind of do that, right? Now, moving ahead with, so we had what you call a reality check about where we are with respect to our transportation and all, right? So now let's talk about what we are supposed to talk about, emerging technologies. So from the ground, let's move to the cloud. So everybody is talking about GenAI. GenAI. So I think it's important that that word, though it's emerging, I think we need to understand what it means. It's not one place or one thing which it is. It is happening in warehouses, it's happening in transportation, it's happening in planning, it's happening in products, systems and all. So I think what we'll try to understand from our elite panelists is what it is mean to each of them when they have been doing work. So because it's GenAI, so let's start with the youngest panel member and the company which kind of professes about the emerging technologies, uses of emerging technologies. Over the last 20 years, we have seen Amazon come first with any of these technologies. So, Ankush, from your perspective, from whatever you have seen, and because your generation is also very embracing of the new technologies and all. So how do you see GenAI impacting in supply chain from where you see it, basically?
Sure. I'm audible, right? Thanks, Ravi. So, Ravi, for me, GenAI is something, the capability of generating new data and testing out what... Yeah, I'm audible, right? Right. Thank you. So, GenAI is giving you a possibility of generating new set of data and then testing out your assumption. Demand planning, supply planning has been there throughout. But what I see as a change is dumping that layer where you need expert demand planner, a forecaster, a person who is knowing the models, who can tweak the models. Today, the way I see within Amazon, we have come to a stage where you can simply type and all your assumptions will be tested once again. So there are two parts to the GenAI that has evolved till date. One part is the predictive part and the second is the prescriptive. And specifically, I will touch upon on the demand planning as well as the workforce planning. So the way we have our supply chains, we have a bidirectional kind of a supply chain wherein inputs from field flows back to center, inputs from center flows back to the field, and that back and forth is what optimizes the system in real time. And one key element is like the workforce at every point in the supply chain is assessed and then a prediction on what kind of churning needs to be done at, let's say, a fulfillment center or middle mile. That happens. And what I have seen is in the last 2 years, it has picked up pretty much pace in terms of dumping that layer of experts. Now you can simply type and put out assumptions that instead of X number of workers, today you have Y, and what would be the impact on productivity, what every block of the value chain needs to operate on. That gets optimized and that gets conveyed back. Coming to the prescriptive part, you all would have seen that many times there are elements or there are incidents which lead your forecast not coming true, or you don't have the required capacity in places. Uh, let's say X node, X impact has happened, and that, how do you tackle with that? Today, that is coming into picture, that you are getting prescriptions, how you can reallocate and re-optimize the entire value for today. And let's say in the evening shift, something else happens, then it gets revised. So that's the kind of difference I have seen, at least since when I've joined. So in the last 2 years, this has accelerated, and I can sense that a lot of opportunity is getting created in these two spaces. One is the predictive capabilities and the prescriptive capabilities. Happy to answer any questions if anyone has, but I would just ask Roshan to, you want to continue?
Yeah, thanks, Ankush. I think Ankush kind of tried to tell us about how it's impacting the planning, supply plan, demand planning, and how we are trying to get same work done at a lower level of skill levels using AI, right? Now, all this is possible because somebody at the back end is trying to put a lot of effort into developing those products and all those things. So I'll maybe ask Kamlesh, who has been, for more than 2 decades working in developing products, very enhanced products, for multiple companies like Oracle, Manhattan Associates, and all those things. How is this? Where do you see this development in terms of the AI for day-to-day customer, ultimately supply chain operations boosting, and therefore customer experience getting better and better, right? So how do you see that basically? Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's audible? Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So what we have seen, right? AI has been evolving over the years, right? We have seen a lot of how we can predict based on the old data, and when we can churn a lot of data and use machine learning to answer something which is very, very difficult to predict, right? GenAI is something which is new. I'm sure all of you have used it. Who has not used GenAI yet? Anybody? Not used yet, right? I think it's kind of reached everybody already. You have it in WhatsApp, right? You can ask questions and it answers, and it answers pretty well. And it gets the context and answers beyond that, right? So it's, instead of earlier you used to search and figure out something, now you can take the context as if you're talking to some expert, right? That's how the GenAI behaves, right? You have seen people using it for their homeworks as well, right? The same thing, basically, it's kind of something which was evolving over the years, right? Has reached a stage where it is very close to what humans can think, right? And it's not something which is just coming out of the data that is you put in, right? And it has changed. Where it's exactly being used, we are started integrating in all our applications. So if you know, the Manhattan is a leading supply chain product development company. We have leading products in warehouse management, transportation management, omni-channel commerce. In all these areas, we have started integrating the GenAI capabilities. So what are the key ones which you can look at? Something is more about the customer experience, right? So I'm sure if you had earlier called up one of the customer care centers and there is some bit of automation, they will say press 1 to do something, then go and press 2, and then continue, right? No more. What you need to do is the way you ask anybody, right? Directly the expert. You can ask in your native language. It will go ahead and figure out all the data underneath and give you the answers. So that changes the way you interact with the system altogether, the way the chat sex used to have your chatbot used to answer, right? It is now in your language, as per your question, no more pressing 1, 2, and everything, right? So that's the huge difference that is on the customer side. Again, if you look at from the people who are implementing supply chain, right? If you need to know in the system, right, okay, where maybe some order is getting delayed, what you used to do, you used to go ahead and open your dashboard. And from there, you will navigate to different other dashboards and figure it out. Now you can just ask those questions, and it will help you directly. Okay, this is the area where it is delayed. You can ask your next question, okay, from where I can pull up more people. And you tell you, okay, maybe this is something which is not urgent, and you can go ahead and start reallocate the labor from one area to another. So this is the kind of where it is going through, right? And as you were saying, in the development world, everybody is scared these days, right? Everybody says GenAI will do all the development. All the coding will be done by GenAI, right? Yeah, we are far away from that. Don't know what will be happening 5 years down the line. But yes, it is helping when you start implementing, when you're implementing extensions, right? The piece of code that is reused for extension is now generated by GenAI, right? And if you want to know the context of what was done earlier, you have huge amount of data, the documents or the code, and it will summarize and tell you, okay, this is what was done by your previous developer, what it means, and if you make a change, where all it will impact, right? So that is where the GenAI is getting into, and it is going to kind of change all the way the products are and the way you interact with the products.
Thanks, Kamlesh. I think two things which ring my mind when about this. One is, it is starting to becoming like a human. So it's starting to think. So earlier, all about robotics, all about automation was saying anything which is straight line, I can automate. Now it's not about straight line. It can think convoluted also, which a human mind can do that, right? And it's about how to use that customer experience. So, Bhargav, you have been leading the digitalization thing, this thing for your company currently, and even in your previous stints in Aditya Birla and other corporates. So where do you see this being used effectively for enhancing customer experiences and other things? And if you see any challenges there, yeah.
Yeah. So, GenAI is something everyone is now talking about, right? This is everyone is aware of. Before I get into your answer that point, I just want to put forward one point of view, which is slightly different than overall GenAI perspective. So now there is a perception that GenAI can do anything. It's like a magic wand, okay? But which is not the case. And we should be aware of where it should be used properly and where we should use it along with traditional AI methodology. That is a very fundamental thing. People should understand that. And second point is, what is GenAI? Behind the scene, it is actually a language model. It understands the whatever conversation in terms of text or words or whatever it is, they understand. And then based on that, it generates output, right? So now, if you want to solve some problem in terms of where there is lots of data, direct GenAI application will not solve for you. You have to augment with traditional AI. So that is how it will work. And then only you will get the best output benefit of the GenAI. Having said that, in terms of supply chain's perspective, some of the areas, let's say price discovery, I have a, I want to bring a new procurement strategy, sourcing strategy. If I need to understand what is the best pricing strategy for me, then GenAI will play a big role. It can scroll through all the available information internally as well outside, and then based on your prompt, there's a prompt engineering also play a big role. Based on your prompt engineering input, based on your situation, your set of operational constraint, what could be that pricing strategy you should adopt? Those kind of things it will do very well. Okay? So that is what the perspective I just wanted to put in forward. And having said that, from the application of emergent technologies, Gen AI, traditional AI, and many other things, from the customer experience as well as from the stakeholder experience, there are I think there are lots of opportunities to be applied for. In fact, just to give you examples, like in terms of from our internal customer experience perspective, we have customers across all set of possible customers in India. We have from distributors to dealers to retailers to big projects and everything. We deal with all of them. Now, for each of them, how we can bring that customer experience customized, personalized for that particular perspective of customer profile. That is where all the technologies play a big role. One thing is, one of that is like from the traditional AI perspective, the customer behavior, customer profiling, that will give a good input in terms of the expectation from the customer, whether it is more about product offerings he is more concerned, or it is more about on-time delivery, or combination of both. So all these things can be easily modeled through the AI technologies, and accordingly, we can build that personalization experience. So these are the areas I can keep on telling many other experience, but these are few things I just wanted to highlight here.
I think, thanks, Bhargav. I think Bhargav pointed out two things very clearly. One is, it can't do everything. So let's not be very fearful about GenAI, that it can't take away all our jobs. I think the second thing is, behind GenAI, there is still a lot of basic artificial intelligence and ML thing which needs to help it do it basically. And it's about, and the third thing what he emphasizes about the personalization of customer experience, because different channels of customers also need different kind of experiences basically. So that it can do much faster with a lot of agility. With all these things comes, obviously with every opportunity there is a risk, and therefore, Roshan, I would try to pick your thoughts on what do you think is the opportunity and where do you think are the risks as we embark on this journey of GenAI, especially in supply chain and operations.
Thank you, Ravi. Okay. Was that too loud? It was just to wake you up. Okay. So yeah, I was like coming at around 5 o'clock. It is typically it is, with this kind of boring session when you have supply chain guys talking, it becomes a little bit technical and heavy. But let me give you some of the anecdotes what Ravi has talked about. It is a story couple of years back, and I hope all of us in this room are fresh about the memories of COVID, and therefore the lifestyle changes, right? So the demand that we have started observing later on, and which and most of our stock outs happened because of one issue. That issue was that average size that people used to wear I represent jockey for that matter, right? So the context should be clear. So whatever people wore, right, the comfort wear that we used to supply, innerwear as well as comfort wear, workwear, athleisure, we started selling one size larger just after COVID, right? So that's the anecdote. Now, that's the opportunity, because he asked about it. So opportunity is that once you analyze that behavior, what is changing, you start to predict the demand. All these prediction right now that we are doing in demand planning and demand forecasting is based on the data which gets generated from the market. Now, this is the leading indicator, not the lagging indicator. And this is not new for us, because I come from end-to-end supply chain view, so I give you another anecdote. From manufacturing perspective, machine learning has been there. It has been there for a long time. We have been using it in different companies, different context, and many of you would have used it. That was for preventive maintenance of the machines, right? So now, if we start understanding more about it, that how much time it takes to fail, a machine to fail, it also depends on the way the parts were transported. right? So that is another anecdote that we can all analyze and opportunity that we can understand. Now another opportunity, another anecdote and a story, and it is about 10 years back, approximately 9 to 10 years back, when my son was 5 years old. And I used to tell him that do not go near to the television. So whenever he used to go, I used to kind of nudge him that, why are you going near? And then the reply came one day was, why don't you put a sensor that whenever I go near to the television, it tells me that you are near to the television, right? So because I do not know when I'm going near to the sensor. So now you understand that, right? How the technology helps us in improving our, all of us, it is the risk that the boy is going near to the television, but it is an opportunity where you innovate to tell them. The risk part about what you are going to do when you are implementing these AI solution, and this can go long, but I want to, I again don't want to make you sleep, so I'll try to summarize few things. How many of you are there from port handling perspective? Handled ports, logistics, DP World is there, so they have been there on ports. Let me give you, yeah. So let me give you another example. In 1990, and this comes from history, not from supply chain, the average turnaround time for ship at Mumbai port used to be 28 days, freaking 28 days. And therefore our logistics performance, and we are into this CII conclave, so we understand that India's logistics ranking in worldwide, where it would be. But nearer future, in 22, 23, 23 data says that in India, this average turnaround time has become less than 1 day. So 28 days to less than 1 day. So that is another opportunity that you have when you have technology and transparency coming in. Once you read those subjects a lot, you will understand what kind of transparency I'm talking about. And therefore, the first thing that a lot of panelists have talked about is data. How good is your data? How large is your data, and how good is your model to analyze that data, and how, what is the all the companies, all the big companies are investing on these emerging technologies, and we will we'll see that, and that this is a career advice for younger ones, that keep looking on those, where the investments are going on. So generative AI is the one where investments are going on. So all the big companies are investing on these, and the big risk is the kind of data that we are uploading to make those models. The second big risk is, are we ready from organization perspective, the talent that we are having? How good is that talent? And the third thing is that how much are we using, or how dependent we are going to become on these new generative AI models. And the opportunity will be how these, again, can, like the computers came and human and computers work together. So similarly, the opportunity will be how we develop those models where humans and the technology, generative AI technology, work together. So these are some of the summary points that I just wanted to mention. And thanks, Amit, for your risk and kind of nudging everyone towards that risk of road safety. That will be there when you take any of the path. It is for technology path also. So keep your eyes open and look at those things, that what are you going to implement in your organization.
Thank you, Roshan. I think with our panels, we had a decent round of understanding of what GenAI is actually, what it can do, what it cannot do on its own, and what are the risks and opportunities. So now, because our session is not only about GenAI, it's about any emerging technologies. So all of the emerging technologies, how they impact our operations, and in supply chain specifically. So therefore, we'll just try to kind of slightly shift to what I call one of the basic, simple technologies, which has been there for 20, 25 odd years, but which is, let's say, you're running a warehouse, and you have a very basic transaction management system called a WMS, warehouse management system. Now, we all know that, because of the number of warehouses which you have and the size of the warehouses which you have, many of the warehouses do not even work on a WMS, which is unheard of, the Western this thing and all. So this, but what has happened over the last 4-5 years, what my understanding is, this basic, what we call the humble WMS, has just graduated from a basic transaction management tool to actually improving the productivity inside the warehouses, right? And I would just like to take Tanishta's inputs on that, because Tanishta leads the WMS delivery, design and implementation for global, for her company, which is Kimberly-Clark. And therefore, she would be seeing a spectrum of how it is being used in Southeast Asian countries, including India, and in the Western world kind of a thing, and how that has changed over the 3-4 years and how it's impacting operations, especially.
Right. Thank you, Ravi Kanji. Namaskar, and hello to everyone. The way we have seen, so let me, like Ravi Kanji said, I'll speak and I'll keep my discussion mainly on the warehouse. Technology, the way we have seen in warehouse, let me start from the time where 30, 40 years ago, when we were talking about warehouses, we used to call it go-downs. We had a go-down, and material will come in, somebody will take it, put it somewhere, then an order comes, goes to that place, picks it up, and loads it into a truck. We start from there. And then the next phase of technology or digitalization started, right? Where we had a basic database and became very transactional. We had Excels. We would take the order printout. We will go and, the labor would go take the materials and put it in your ship or, transport or trucks. From there, we moved on, we improved. The next level of sophistication is where you have your warehouse management systems. That came in. From just a printout, you now have a tablet or an iPad. And your entire routing is done by the system. So you don't have to depend on your labor, whether it's your regular labor or seasonal labor. You have already given him the routing. He already knows it's there on his tablet to go to, let's say, a very crude example, aisle number 1 to fetch your SKU A, aisle number 17 to take your SKU B, and then he comes in and puts it in your packing area, right? So it's some level of automation. Next level of sophistication is you don't even need to give a iPad or a tablet. You want hands-free. So you give a voice speaking. So you have a sort of a headphones given to your labor, and he hears. He goes to the aisle, again, goes to aisle number 1, picks up SKU A, goes to aisle number 17, picks up SKU 25, comes and puts it in your packing area. So if you see the level of sophistication happening over the years, step by step is how we have moved from becoming a transactional warehouse system to becoming more and more sophisticated. Now today, we've been doing a pilot with one of our warehouses in Latin America for this exact thing, the voice speaking. You can have languages selected, Spanish, English, Marathi, Hindi, it will come. Someday all of our languages will be there in your voice speaking devices. So you see the journey has already started. If you consider what you need for your warehouse is the decision that I would say is critical. Like, what is your requirement? A large warehouse would need probably voice speaking. But a much smaller, or a warehouse where you don't have a big churn, right? You don't have too many shipments per day. You wouldn't really need to invest in such a technology. So whether it's an emerging technologies or technology which has already been there in the market for years, end of the day, it's a tool. It's like a hammer. Now, whether you take the hammer to break a table or you build a table with the hammer, right? So you take or select the technology as per your requirement.
Thanks, Tanisha, for a very simple explanation of how we have moved over the last 4 or 5 years. With each of these challenges, once you start implementing multiple things, so we're talking about automation. So I'll just like to take in Ankush's inputs on that, because Amazon have always been on the forefront of what you call automation to some extent, right? Whenever the technology has come in. So with each of these automation elements coming in, there is an element of, overarching layer needs to be there to simplify such things and all those things, yeah? So therefore, visibility becomes very critical, because you have a different system for one particular automation, you have a different system for another particular automation. So therefore, visibility, you have another layer for visibility and all those things. So how is Amazon tackling those things in your experience, what you have seen, and how do you think, where do you think it's going to go in terms of it? Yeah.
Sure. Thanks, Ravi. So two parts I want to address. Visibility at every point of value chain, the entire supply chain is what we strive to do. And on this front, what recently you would have seen digital twins, like the entire plants coming up. But this is something Amazon has always practiced, right? The entire supply chain in physical as well as in virtual, it is matched. There are checks and balances to ensure that these two are always in sync. And wherever it goes, like at some point in time, we bring it back. So this is completely managed as of now in a slightly automated way. We have, running out and rolling out ways and means of automating. The second part of visibility is coming from, let me give you an anecdote from field. Like I handle returns for multiple categories, and it becomes very essential, the packet that is coming, back from a customer, where that got bagged, who has bagged it, right? So from the basic level of information, like who has packed that bag, and is there any traceability of how that entire packaging bag, we call it like tamper-evident bagging, right? And as the average order value moves up and up, let's say for iPhone 16, it would be 1.5 lakhs and above. So visibility of your every element of packaging or every element that has gone into delivery as well as return becomes very, very important. That's how we tie it back, and we give these signals back in improving our processes as well as building products around it. Second piece is, once we have these visibilities, it presents, or it has presented us with a lot of opportunities. Let me give an example on how I have tackled returns. So earlier we used to do returns through a manual check. Manual check as in the delivery agent will come to your doorstep. He will check what is the condition of the return item that you are giving back. Now we are slowly graduating towards having automated checks, meaning he would quickly take snaps, maybe record a 10 or 20 seconds video, and the algorithm is going to tell him whether to accept, whether to reject that return. If accept at what value, right? So on and so forth. So these two things, one is visibility, giving you a complete gamut of opportunities, and B, it is giving or opening up doors to opportunities where you can bring in automation to make your processes seamless and your customer experience a notch higher.
Excellent. So yeah, I think with visibility, what the clients need, and therefore to enhance customer experience, all this is putting a lot of pressure or challenge on the systems which are there within the warehouse or within the supply chain ecosystem. And therefore the demand for the overall system to be more flexible in a way, right? So Kamlesh, you have seen this products develop over the last 20 years. So we have seen this big WMS from a time when there used to be on-premise, right? There used to be huge discussion around saying how big my server room should be in the warehouse and what all should be there, because connectivity used to be a challenge. Therefore, any WMS server has to be within the warehouse, to a place where we say, no, we can manage that from this thing, to a now saying that, during the Christmas time or the Diwali period, I need server space for the database X of 3x size, whereas normal time I need only X size. Where do you get that flexibility? So all these flexibilities, I presume, are getting built into the product, and I presume these are getting more challenging day to day. But to give the customer that flexibility, products need to develop. So Kamlesh, because on the product side, if you can just throw light on some of the challenges there and how you have navigated those things, it will be great to understand that.
Thanks for that. Yeah, and as you have seen in the morning, we heard in the morning also, right? There was a demand drop during the pandemic. Suddenly there was a revenge shopping. Suddenly demand surged, then flattened. So yeah, how do you basically plan your IT infrastructure, right? How do you make sure you are able to serve your customers with all these changing demands? So a lot of changes that has happened over the last few years, right? And that's what has started getting adopted into the products. At Manhattan, we had already, it's like, if you look at Gartner reports, it was already 16 years, it was already a leading player in the WN space. But still, we went ahead and changed it completely. Because the way the market behaves today, the way the customer expects, the way the supply chain has been evolving, the way the old things used to work are not going to work anymore. So what did we go to, right? We went to a cloud native application. So all these applications are now on cloud. These are microservices. That means if you don't need to have the entire system in one block, right? If in your warehouse, if your receiving is having a problem, that doesn't mean you can't ship your stuff out, right? You want it to be microservices so that, yeah, you can manage them well. And your demands keep changing. The demand or the amount of server space what you need when the operations are on is different from when it's basically shift change, right? There are also 365 days a year, 24/7 warehouses, right? And suddenly the demand changes during your Diwali time, right? So how do you do that? So all this is being taken care by microservices, which scale up and scale down automatically. That means nobody interferes. We collect all the data, as you said in visibility, we collect all the data that comes in, and according to that data, automatically the server decides that, okay, if you're having an operations, you are having a surge in demand, now let me have more instances of it, and you are through. And nobody's looking at it. And these days, again, you want new features, right? Everything is evolving. So do you have a time for upgrades? Giving and say, okay, I won't work for a day and I want to do an upgrade. I don't know how many of you have been a very, very difficult time doing upgrades on the on-prem servers, right? It's a very difficult, it's a challenging task. Now in this new world, you don't even know it has upgraded. Like the way you use your emails or Gmail, and you don't even know when it got upgraded. A new feature came in which had started auto-suggesting what to reply. The same way, the new applications, the new world applications, automatically get upgraded as and when even the whole operations is on. You don't even realize that, okay, my application has already got upgraded. All you have to do is go ahead and in the configuration say, okay, I want to start using this new feature, right? Like when we recently launched about all this GenAI stuff, it was already there for the customers to use. And they didn't go for any upgrade for that. It was automatically there, and you just had to go ahead and just switch it. There can be times when you need to increase the memory, and for that, is it somebody sitting in the background and looking at it all the time? No. It's just that a signal goes to the system, and system automatically reacts to that and does an upgrade of your memory. So all these are self-managed, very intelligent systems which scale up and scale down automatically for you these days. So these are the new technologies that have come in, and they are changing the way we interact with the system.
Thanks, Kamlesh. I think that's very interesting because with more advancement in warehouses, multiple technologies and automations coming in, more pressure on the system to deliver a seamless experience, and therefore products getting better and better to kind of give that, right? Now, all this, and last 10 minutes we've been discussing about the warehouse part of it, kind of a thing. But that's just one part of the supply chain, right? And with this, as customers will keep on demanding, And one of the demands would be, how do I get not only visibility within the warehouse across all systems, across all automation pieces, but across my supply chain? And we talk about supply chain, it's, right from planning, go to manufacturing or sourcing or buying basically, then again distribution, and then the final leg of transportation. The entire integrated view of the supply chain. So Roshan, maybe I would like to get your inputs on, how do you visualize an integrated supply chain, about right from the planning all the way to this, and where does innovation come in there to kind of help us do that in these times with all these emerging technologies?
Sure. Thanks, Ravi. I hope. Now, you have added like a couple of things from integrated supply chain perspective. I would like to add one more facet, which is the product development or innovation. So when you are looking at the integrated supply chain, you are also looking at, particularly from product company perspective, the products are getting developed, and then in the kind of industry wherever you are, there are innovations happening, and the pace of innovation is different in all the sections. And therefore, that also has to come into the picture of integrated supply chain. This is in connection with the new age technology that we are using. What is coming in pretty specific, and Kamlesh talked about the way products have evolved, where products are available from IT service providers, that it can give you that visibility and connections from each of the legs of the supply chain. So from integrated supply chain perspective, now if you look at supply chain, the basic or the visualization you could have in a supply chain control tower perspective. And the control towers would give you an idea about where are the things going in the direction that you have set the policies and processes for. And then there are areas which are not going as per those set processes and policies. And on the top of that, if you have systems built up with respect to GenAI or any other decision support system, whether it is automated decision or you take the decision based on decision support system, is something that need to be evaluated. But that is where, I think from visualization perspective, these are the solutions which where companies are progressing, and we will be progressing in a phased manner to that level. Particularly the layers of the technology that Kamlesh alluded to, and I like to build on that. From data lake perspective, the way your base ERP your core systems works with the different solutions that talk to that, the solution that you have set up for yourself. And then there are nuances of supply chain disruptions that are to be visualized and embedded in those solutions. In the middle of this meeting itself, I got a message about delays of custom clearance from ICT Bangalore. So now that is impacting that may impact my supply, correct? So these are the practical challenges that you face, and now somebody from my supply planning side have to visualize that because of this disruption, what is the impact, revenue loss, and then the decision has to be taken that if I have to do a demand management, replacement of product offering, what has to be done, right? So all of this has to be considered when you have one. I just give you an example from this meeting perspective, that this one message has come, and which has gone into the analysis of separate legs of supply chain, that how it impacts every other supply chain perspective. And of course, from each of these verticals, you talked about procurement. There are products which are getting developed, which you might use in your production in future. And then you are also looking at those products from your sourcing team and innovation team perspective. And then you are also trying to build your inventory planning for your current system, that if those products are going to get inwarded, how long you should have contracts with your suppliers for the current offering that you are having. So these are the kind of, of course, the subject is complex, but some of the examples that I could just put it across.
Yeah, thanks Roshan for your inputs. I think visibility, greater visibility, and therefore higher ability to manage disruptions in this thing. So Bhargav, I would like to get your inputs again on the point of disruptions, right? How all these emerging technologies is helping us manage disruptions better as compared to, let's say, 2 years, 5 years down the
Yeah,
line?
sure.
How is?
Yeah, talking about disruptions, first of all, we need to categorize what are those kind of disruptions. So, first of all, there are black swan events which we cannot predict, like COVID and this war going on. And then second type of disruptions are all we may anticipate that this may come, like weather issues and all these things. Now, these are two different segment of disruptions and needs to be addressed accordingly. Now, in case of black swan kind of events, which we cannot predict, of course, the main part is how we can react to it as quickly as possible. So, I can give you one example during COVID times. In my earlier stint in other organizations. In India, you all remember, we had lockdowns, then we have staggered opening of operations and all. And that, I think that happens sometime in the Q1 of the financial year. March end, we had lockdown, and then April, May, June onwards, staggered opening up and all these things started happening. And then at the same time, we are also having information about how that the virus has been propagating, how much infections, where it is happening, and that might lead to what kind of disruption in logistics and all these things, right? So in that situation, what we did, because we have to react fast, we cannot lose a quarter of our financial year because of all these things. So we did over a weekend at time, we created a complete simulation model for our entire operation. We had a pan-India operation. We sell our product almost every nook and corner. And looking at the pattern of the virus propagation, hospitalization information, because those informations are coming. And then looking at what government is planning to prepare the unlocking plan. So based on that, the entire geography of India was mapped. Then we have our manufacturing facilities almost across India. We have about for 25 to 26 facilities. And subsequently, quite a bit of warehouses as well. Now, the first thing is that based on that information, how we can unlock the capacity from one facility to other facility, reacting to that environment. So that is one thing. And then linking that with my transporter ecosystem, how many logistics partner that I might be having, and then where they can deliver. So at this entire simulation part we have built within a weekend time, and we had predicted that probably around 8 to 9% of total volume loss still may happen. But if we can do this activity, that at least we will be resisting to at least single digit of volume loss. And that helped the organization. Eventually, whatever we predicted, almost in the nearly same range, it came out. So that is one example I could state out. Similarly, there are multiple other things as well. Yeah, I'm open to others' point of view as well.
Okay. Yeah, I will come back to you with more examples if we have time. And so, yeah, basically, all these technologies are now not only helping us manage the operations better, it's also helping us manage disruptions better, is what I understand. You know? So Tanishta, if I may come back to you, again, back to the humble warehouse or the go down, you know, one is automation in warehouses in India is still a challenge. And for multiple reasons, we all know that, because manpower costs are lower, therefore ROI doesn't come in directly. And also, how do you assess a business case? When do I use automation? When do I not use automation? So what is the point? And secondly, how do you assess if there are startups? So these are all technology-based hard things. They're not like software mein app bana diya and just runs on its own, right? So there are hard conveyors there are lights there, all those things there. So, and sometimes it's scary that, you know, kids are doing it. So can they do it or not do it. So building a software code is a different thing. Making a conveyor run at a particular speed and getting it towed from a automation system is a different thing. So two parts to it. One is, how do you assess the business case for an automation? Secondly, if at all there is, how do you assess the capability of the startups to be able to see in this innovative space they are equipped to handle this kind of thing? Some inputs from your side maybe.
Right. Sure, Ravikanji. So I'll answer the first question first. How do we normally assess where to put an automation? Now, automation itself is a vast, when I say it's a vast, so I'll stick to, let's say, automation in the warehouse in terms of AGVs or automated guided vehicles, etc. So I think most of us would know the main parameters would be the size. If you have a huge warehouse, you would want to go for an automation. And mainly for markets where labor is a huge challenge. So in India, it's always not a business case to have automation because आपका business case ही नहीं बनेगा, right? The ROI would not justify. But in markets, mainly in Europe and the US, automation is kind of becoming mandatory now, given the labor problems, let me just call it, or shortages, right? So in our European or American warehouses, we are slowly and steadily going into automations. AGVs, we are working with startups and other 3PLs to go into automation there. The third is, of course, the nature of the business. If you want high efficiency, high turnaround, that's another reason for you to go into automation, low human error. So these are the parameters we normally use when we take a decision. But I just want to add, it's not always that if you have a huge space, still you would want to take an automation. I'll give an example in one medium to big warehouse we have in Germany, but we don't want to go into automation because it's mainly open area and we have dumped our raw materials. And open area, I mean, what automation do you want to do? You don't want to do. So even if overall the space is huge, for us, we will not do automation. We'll just put trucks, डाल के या forklift में लेके आ जाएंगे. We'll not go into sophisticated automations. That's the final decision we did. So business case. So many of these decisions are based on what we do in the warehouse, right? And to the second question of startups, this is a topic of discussion between me with the rest of my team, especially me and my boss. We keep debating and discussing, should we go for startups or not go for startups? How do we manage data security? How do we manage कि time पे देंगे? Will they support? चलो हमने ले लिया, we onboarded them, but will they be there to support us? So these are the key questions that we always ask before we get into a contract. But what I have seen, and I'll give some examples, is that, and again, in my experience, you have a solid ERP system or a WMS system for your warehouse, which is basically your backbone. And they will probably give you almost all the functionalities that you need. Picking, onboarding, all of your basic processes will come with your ERPs. Where the startups can help you is some specific cases. Voice speaking was one that I said, where you want to do efficiency there. So we engaged with a local vendor there for those devices, right? The other that I can remember, and we are trying to do it here in Latin America as well as here in India, is drone counting. Again, what we are trying to do is we are working with a startup where they will use drone to do the entire inventory counting in the warehouses, right? Of course, there are benefits like human errors come ho jayenge. We'll have less human errors. We'll have faster cycle counting turnaround. So based on these specific cases is where we need to engage with startups. Because sometimes, an SAP or an Oracle or a big software vendor, we may or may not have the flexibility to cater to your specific warehouse needs. And that's where you evaluate with your startups and based on your business case.
Thanks. I think that's a very valid point, Well, automation is not just one thing. Automation is many things, even within warehouses, and there are certain small things where even the startups are coming and excelling. For example, the same example what she was talking about drones. We have heard about drones being used for inventory counting in warehouses for almost 5 years now. Not very prevalent in India also. One of the primary reasons we did a pilot, we are a consultancy, so we did a pilot with one startup in US. And we actually ran the drone in our night shift here, which was daytime there. And the guys were operating from our office here. So the bandwidth and everything is not a challenge. Why can't, so therefore there are certain things which needs to be done very clearly to be able to make that happen. And one of the things is, for example, the barcode on the carton, which is, has to be facing the aisle. Now, if that's not there, even the drone goes there, it can't read anything, right? So this is kind of a very, very basic thing to be done, unless otherwise, very easy to say, drone can move around on the top without impacting the operations, and you can do a cycle count, no problem with that. But how does it read the barcode? So that is where one of the GenAI things are also coming up, where it's not restricted now to only that barcode there. It can read some printing there, or say is like Huggies pads or something like that. It can read, understand, and tell what SKU is there, basically, in that. And also tell whether the SKU box is full or partial, or a pallet is full or partial. So it's just not about the barcode. Yeah, sorry.
Imaging, right? Taking the images now rather than barcode.
Systems have got so improved and all, it's helping all these things make it much better. Yeah, I think, so yeah, we covered all those things. Amit is silently after that presentation, so I'd like to take some of the input. Coming back to road. So we have started from the road, back to cloud, came back to warehouse, and then maybe some. So Amit, while you showed us a great presentation, this thing, so part of it is right, but why is it critical? So in our ecosystem, 3PLs, third-party logistics, and the logistics players take the responsibility of the goods. So I, as a client, when I have given it to him, or the logistics provider, it's his responsibility to handle. Why do you still need to have that extra layer of tracking, even though I have outsourced it to this? So why is it so important to do that? And that is where I want your input on. And also to see how is that linked to road safety and overall listing. Maybe the last. Yeah.
So that's a valid point. I have outsourced as a supply chain head of a manufacturing company or an FMCG company. I have outsourced my transport or logistics to third party. Why should I be bothered about it? Take a step back. Road safety as a concept, I mean, we are losing about 1.7 lakh lives on the road every year, right? Now, when it comes to road safety in the B2B space, there are 3 players. One is the person who owns the goods, right? Whether you are a manufacturing company or anything else, or even passenger transportation, right? Which can be your FMCG, manufacturing, healthcare, whatever, right? Second is the transport owner itself, right? The person who owns the vehicle, right? And third is the government. Now, why do I say government? We still in a mindset, not because we want to be that ways, but the business is so demanding that we are looking at compliance than really do anything else. Sustainability became a major topic because our government set up some goals, and then globally it became a hot topic, right? Did we take it proactively? Probably if you look at it deep down, we would realize that probably not, right? So to achieve the goal of 50% reduction in road accidents that Mr. Nitin Gadkari has set up for the country, which was earlier set up for 2020, now it is moved to 2030, and he accepts it that we could not achieve it. Transport owners are doing their bit. They have pressure. Now the person who is owning the good also has to become a partner of it. Now everybody will not do it. Let me tell you that. right? It's only forward-looking. When it becomes a regulation from government, probably everybody would, right? But till that happens, which may be a couple of years, there has to be a forward-looking goods owners who will come forward with logistics owners and say, hey, because these are my goods. And let me give you an example rather talking about general. There's a company, an American FMCG company operating in India. They are using driver monitoring systems. So last week I met them in Delhi, and I asked the supply chain head, by the way, that why do you need to track? The same question, right? You have outsourced it. His response was clear. He says, I own these goods. I own these goods, right? I might have outsourced it where everybody else takes care of it, but if anything happens on the road, authorities seize my vehicle, I have to still arrange the product because the store, the distribution needs it. While the legal process may take days and weeks, so it's my loss, not anyone else's loss. Second case, accident happens. The product is damaged, of course I'll get insurance, but my brand also gets impacted with that. Third, drivers. All of us talk about people centricity. Our system will collapse the way it is going because right now the drivers availability in the market is about 60% of the demand that we have in India market, 60%. Because none of us want to be driver, none of us want our child to be driver, and whosoever is there is also moving out from that job. How do we protect them, right? Any accident happens, as I said, in 75% of highway accidents where a goods transportation, a commercial transportation vehicle meets with an accident with a passenger vehicle, 75% cases, the goods transportation vehicle is seized. The driver is blamed. And reality may be different. All of us know they may be driving better. It may not be their fault. So you need to have a system where you're not just coaching them, but also safeguarding them, right, from this litigation, from these issues. You cannot really get away from the hooligans what we have on the road. So there are three reasons. The fourth reason he gave was that I want to be different from the industry. Everybody's talking about green, right, carbon emission, all of that. I want to take a step ahead. I want to have a different brand, which also talks about the bigger pain that the country is facing today. I hope that answers the question.
Thanks, Amit. I think we are a little bit pressed for time, but thanks for all the inputs. It will be interesting if we as the audience ask questions. So you have seen our panelists, different experts on different fields, coming from different industries. Anybody has a question, please. Somebody can give the mic to the gentleman. Yeah, couple of mics on this side maybe.
Again, thank you so much. My name is Nitish again. So Tanishta, very interesting take on startups. I just wanted to share that back in 1972, SAP actually started as a very single module platform, and the local ecosystem supported them to become what they are today. So we have equal potential, and we look for or request for the similar support. I hope our vision are even grand than what SAP is. That is one part. But I quickly wanted to understand that in terms of technology, and since the morning, we are hearing a lot of interesting thoughts about technology and advancements. Why, if technology is making such breakthroughs in supply chain, if we look at the inventory to sales ratio of major FMCG or textile or any industry, pre-COVID versus post-COVID, there is a significant jump in the inventory to sales ratio, which is on an average for listed companies, it is beyond 25%. Why is it so? If we are doing well, making inroads into scenario analysis, planning, control towers, everything, why this kind of a paradox is observed? Is it a temporary phenomena, or it will phase out, or what will be your perspective on that? Thanks.
Is this a question to a particular panelist, or anybody can answer?
Especially FMCG, so Tanishta is there, or Kamlesh, anybody can answer actually.
Your views on why is that happening?
Yeah. First, on the startup front, uh, uh, I have worked with many of the supply chain heads, many of in my fraternity also. We have experimented with the startups, and I think uh, nowadays Indian startups are bringing fresh thoughts and fresh solutions on the table. In my previous role, I worked with a startup to implement TMS, and which was pretty successful in terms of adoption as well as uh, the business case as well. That is one. The second part on inventory for listed company, we are also there, Page Industries, and we saw the same phenomena that you mentioned. Uh, and the jump was not 25%, it was 100% for us, uh, pre-COVID and post-COVID. Uh, and this was majorly for, and in our case, and it was for my industry, fashion industry perspective, it came from the assessment of demand that we assessed at certain point of time. What did we assess, and what actually happened in the market was very different. Uh, and in that time period, we also had to maintain our relationship with our partners, which are vendors, uh, our employees working in our factories, right? So all of that has to be maintained. So certain level of business, even if it impacts us a little bit financially, we were pretty strong financially, so we kind of weathered it out. And that is definitely a temporary phenomena because as a supply chain uh, student, I would not like to be in the situation where my inventory to sales ratio is always higher. Uh, and uh, Therefore, we have inventory entitlement models in place, which guides us in terms of different aspects of demand variability, supply variability, lead time, giving us what kind of inventory we should be carrying. Uh, that is a guiding thing that we kind of put in across. The technology will not help us in improving this calculation, right? It is only if the process improves, if my variability improves, if my lead time improves, the overall number will improve, right? So mathematics is that. So technology, and if we are able to do that in future course of time, I do believe that we will show improvement on that aspect. Yeah. If that answers your question, if there are any allied things, I can definitely put my experience on it. Thanks. Anyone else want to?
We'll take another question.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Am I audible? Yeah, great. So my name is Shashank Singh, and I am representing Elite EPM, and we are a consultation partner of Anaplan. Now, my question is on technology adoption. Okay. Today, generative AI is talk of the hour, right? Every other organization is adopting it for supply chain. Okay. Now, my question is whether Indian market is ready as of now, okay, for adopting such technologies for supply chain. Okay. And if answer is yes, then the question is how can organizations, okay, ensure that their supply chain processes remain flexible and adaptive to rapid market changes without requiring extensive IT interventions. Okay. Because what I feel is, if Indian market is ready for adopting supply chain technologies, supply chain solutions, okay, whether it be for planning or any other thing, right, then uh, 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 somewhere the problem lies around whether it is business owned or not, okay. And that is where company hesitates at time to adopt any technology, okay. So if the panel can put a light on it, okay, and this is not specific to anyone, so anyone and everyone can answer it from the panel.
I would like you to answer that because digitalization, but I'll just answer. When you say, is the Indian market ready? You can say, take your seats.
Yeah.
How do you define the Indian market? It's a very complex ecosystem, please understand. There are MSMEs, there are very small industries, there's a medium scale, there's a large scale. Like we discussed, 90% of the warehouses, small warehouses, you see, don't have even a WMS. So would you consider that? Then you forget about GenAI. But there are companies like ITC, Unilever, very big organizations which are very big on adoption of technologies also. So that is a different segment altogether. Yeah. But yeah, I think I would like to hear from, because you are leading digitalization and other things.
Yeah.
Interesting to hear.
Yeah, so yes, to first part of your question, industry as an Indian industry, definitely they are ready in many aspects. However, I would like to highlight one point. If the industry is in a FOMO effect, then I would say it could be a failure. Fear of missing out, okay? Not for that purpose. And the second part is that while we talk about the new age technology and all, but what I have felt and I have observed, we miss the basic part, very basic part. Because you would mention about Anaplan, right? They come up with lots of AI things. I know about them, Anaplan, Blue Yonder, and blah, 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 all these things. But what, in our case currently, what we did, there is a very basic thing we did, theory of constraint-based replenishment, okay? And that solved 60 to 70% of my problem. One is that inventory part he was talking about, and then all the other the dispatch and other related problem. So if your basic focus is right, what needs to be done from the basic perspective, and then you move to the next level of technology advancement, then it will be a success. So this is what I would like to highlight here. And you had any other points? Sorry, you had a long this thing. I might have missed out anything. Okay. So yeah, so for any new emerging technology part, one thing is very much important, that business ownership is required. Okay, from the top management perspective, without a sponsorship, uh, probably we may not be have the initial success. That is very much given. Why? Because it also involves a change management part. So hence that will be owned by the business, sponsored by the top management. Then you will see a success. However, I would like to also highlight one more point. The technology should not be that much that you should be doing too much of change management, right? Like the Amazon, the way we are using, everyone intuitive. You don't need to take training. I don't need to give training to my consumer to train to use something, right? Or customer. So it has to be like that way. Then it will be a success.
Just to add on that, because you asked a very particular question about adoption, I believe that most of the listed companies and companies who have sizable business processes are talking about all these technology improvement, GenAI. When I present to board, even GenAI in demand planning, supply planning is talked about. You come from Anaplan, we have that is part of our evaluation box, right? So all of that is there. So be assured that technology partners should be assured that, you know, the Indian industry and we are representing this on CII forum. So definitely this is something that industry is looking forward to, and definitely we are evaluating, and we need those solutions to come on board. Thank you.
Yeah, I have a question here. So, good evening all. See, I am the witness for the technology evolvement, which has happened from my Spencer days. Those days, the barcode was not even invented. We used to print, we used to just put the number. And most of the time, I used to even doing the billing without even looking at the keyboards and all those things. Though from that era till today, there is a huge improvement. But definitely, those days in Pantaloon also, when I was working, so we used to declare some crores of inventory loss, and they used to clap for it. And we used to start the next day. And in today's scenario, since the technology development is so huge, the customer's demand is 100% accuracy. So nothing 100%, less than 100%, no customer talks about it. So we are into 3PL operations, and there is a lot of competition also. If I don't agree for 100% accuracy, somebody else will agree for 100% accuracy. But it is not a jewelry business. yes, jewelry also use the same technology. They deliver 100% accuracy, but doesn't happen in apparel or any other FMCG business. So what is the way forward? Like, how are we going to achieve that 100% accuracy with this technology improvement?
Yeah, so there are quite a lot of things that...
Background, but let Kamlesh answer that, maybe I'll try to answer.
Yeah, you can, so basically, see, there's again a lot of technological advances, right? Again, when you look at where exactly it is happening, right? So even like the startups, right? They're coming up with the complete imaging. There are cameras installed everywhere, right? And they can predict, they can show what exactly is happening. It's just not capturing the photo and sending it across. They can analyze what exactly it happened. So these are the new ones, if slowly gets adopted, these are the ones which can actually bring you towards much better accuracy over the period of time.
Yeah, I'll just try to add that. So technology has evolved a lot. Do you think 100% accuracy is achieved in every warehouse in US? It's not, right? So it's a trade-off. When you are working in a warehouse, because we're talking about fulfillment basically, we're working in a warehouse, it's a trade-off. How many checks I want to do versus, let's say if there is a loss of 0.1% or something like that. So so the more checks I do, the more time I will take, the more time I'll invest, and therefore ultimately the cost per unit has to go up at the end of the day. That versus what is the cost I'm losing, what is the value I'm losing if there's a 0.01% or something of that as a loss to that. So that's a trade-off which always all the service providers has to do, and even the clients have to agree to that. So that trade-off, because of the good emerging systems and all, that percentage or that number has come down a lot. It is very narrowed a lot kind of thing. But it can't go away because it's a trade-off. So I can do a case receiving. I will be very efficient. I will not open the case, trusting the vendor to do full delivery kind of a thing. I'll open it up and I start sending it. It's a case in and each out. When I start sending, there'll be some units mismatch. There's no loss, but there is a unit mismatch. So I can't still fulfill the stores to 100% OTIF. So what do I do? Basically, it's a trade-off. But I have saved a humongous amount of manpower on receiving because now I'm not doing each scanning and receiving kind of thing. So it's always a trade-off which will continue to be there. Technology, how is it helping? Now if you see RFID tags being used in all fashion and all, if you go to Decathlon stores, Decathlon is now one of the pioneers in India, at least I've seen that. There are some of the fashion retailers who are doing RFID right from source tagging. So once they do it, your store level accuracy also goes very high. Therefore, the ARS starts working very, very well because ARS depends on the store inventory at the end of the day. And if your inventory is very accurate, your ARS works well, therefore sales will go up kind of a thing. So all those are happening, but I don't think it will become zero because there's a trade-off there. Yeah.
Can I take a question here? My name is Malay. I represent Hudson's Bay Company. We are into e-commerce, luxury fashion. Predominant market is US and Canada right now, but my question is for Tanishta. Probably it's a follow-up question from what Ravi was alluding to some time back. We were talking about the ROI on the automations that happen in the warehouse. There are multiple things that can be done in an automation, we understand. But in general, since you have a global role and you look into the markets of US, Europe, everywhere, what is the general ROI that you would expect from these kind of automations, whether it is cost of operations or whether it is an impact to your bottom line or EBITDA? Maybe just general question. It is not that specifically asking about certain automation, but generally what would you be expecting it to be?
We do get different business cases on each warehouse, case by case. For us, automation ROIs, we look at 10 to 15% in some cases, or we look at the business case that we have looked at in 3 years payback to 5 years payback. That's what we have looked at in terms of the recent business case that I looked at. But I don't know, maybe it changes from business to business. But for us, the business cases that we looked at was in this range.
right? Because we are consultants and we evaluate this for multiple types of clients. So we have just very ballpark. The manpower cost in India is roughly $1 per hour. The manpower cost in US is anywhere in the range of 12 to 14 to $16 per hour, depending on you're in California or in Texas or this thing. And Europe also similar. So 1:10 to 1:12. That's the manpower cost. And manpower cost in an Indian scenario is almost 25–30% of the total warehouse cost, if it's not an automated call. Now that depends on where you are. That will give you an idea. So Amazon, I don't know Amazon internal, but broadly I know that if there's a payback period for less than 2.5 years, payback, go ahead. Anything more than 3 years, it has to go through all kind of scrutiny. But because it's $10 per hour or $14 per hour there, it's very easy to get payback for within 3 years. In India, even if I extend that period to 10 years, it becomes very, very challenging for some of the investments to go through. So therefore, whenever the case of automation is presented, so therefore it has to be more of conviction with respect to foresight of the promoters or those kind of thing, or some intangibles with respect to, this warehouse, let's say with people you can do it, but you have to push in 300 people in that 1 lakh square feet warehouse in one shift. How will you push 300 people? So that kind of makes the case then, basically. Because it's just not feasible to do it manually. Many times it happens like that.
And maybe given the India context, with this quick commerce coming in, do you think the period of that 10 years that you're estimating right now, let's say, it might not happen for the next 10 years, let's say. But with this quick e-commerce, do you think it might be faster than 10 years, the way we are growing?
I don't think so. You can call me old-fashioned, but I don't think so. None of these quick commerce, these things are profitable on a unit economics basis. Everything being funded from the PE funded economy. So there also, we talked about what you call in-city warehouses. You talk about go to Europe, the in-city warehouses are the most automated ones because space is very, very expensive there. And bigger ASRS systems with many shuttle systems are there in this thing. And you go into Dematic's web page and ask for that, you will see a lot of case studies there. But in India, which warehouse, which Mumbai city or Bangalore city, you will see an automation. It's a 3,000 square feet warehouse in one corner where 50 people are running up and down with their scooters and just picking up the from slotted angle racks. So the real estate, in spite of being very expensive in cities, even in India, you still can't put automation there. So
interesting facts. Thank you so much. There. This is really helpful.
Hey, hi. My name is Harshvardhan Jain. I'm representing Stellium. We are consulting partner for SAP system integration. My question is to Tanishta. So it is specific to India. Okay, given that many businesses in India prefer manual operation due to immediate cost concerns, right? How do you convince clients to invest in warehouse automation or RPA, robotic process automations, especially considering the longer ROI timelines in this market?
So in India, it's a, if I have to go and convince to the India business head sitting in Mumbai, Sanjay, he will say, Tanishta, bhul jao. Because I have gone and, with various proposals to many of my seniors. First person to say no, Tanishta bhul jao, is my boss. Who will give you the budget? India mein nahi hota hai. But the same thing, if I go and present to some of my business team members, directors in the US, they will consider. Not only that, वो तो हमको आके बोलते हैं, you implement this one. They would go and figure out from startup some particular automation. They will come and tell the IT teams, keep, इसको implement करो अभी. We have selected. आगे तुम देख लो how to integrate, right? So it all like Ravi Kanji is saying, right? In India, it's really आपका business case अभी तक नहीं बनता है. Given the labor that you have, is easily available and easily trained. You don't have to spend a lot to train your. I mean, again, I'm saying it from my understanding. Maybe in some industries you have to train. But in India, the cost is difficult. But when you are looking at clients in other regions, and I'll add even in Southeast Asia, Asian countries, I'm not able to give a proposal and get automation approved from the business.
Correct, but see, I'll talk about, okay. Okay, done.
Good evening. Thanks for permitting this last one question. This one application explained by Mr. Amit through this video about the safety, truck safety and the driver safety. Slowly, this feature can be implemented by an automobile manufacturer. I think that is agreed by everybody, because Volvo is selling the trucks only by giving the training to the drivers. They give a training to the drivers and then they sell the trucks also. Maybe Ashok Leyland may bring the same concepts. ISER may bring the same concept. They may give the same features. Okay. What is the next level of differentiation, what we do in terms of this kind of enabling through the automation or something like that is one thing. I'm not challenging the product. The concept is good. And I am only challenging the driver's education. Okay. The feedback is given. What do they do with the feedback? How are we going to bring them up? Okay, I go to DMart. I see a lot of boys and girls in the sales counter. They just show the product. They show the barcode and they do the billing. They don't know what is barcode. But how are we bringing them up to understand what is barcode? Is a basic duty or the responsibility I think all of us have. Okay, this is one point. How we are going to do? What are all the supporting systems is required? And we are talking about drone delivery. There are going to be regulations, maybe in a couple of years. A surgery is scheduled for tomorrow morning. I need a medicine. I want a drone delivery from Delhi to Chennai. It may be a case. It can fly in 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. DTDC has proved a drone delivery at a speed of 110 kilometers per hour. They have done a trial in Delhi. There will be regulations which are coming in. Maybe next 2 years that will come. But how to train people for a drone delivery? What do's, what don't do's. Very similar to the truck driver, whoever is operating the drone, do's, don'ts. How are we aiming or progressing or making the roadmap for training and development of the supportive of all the systems? That's my
Sure. Answer. So thank you so much. Probably I'll keep it short. I know we're out of time. So 2 parts of the question. The first is if the OEMs provide it. In fact, we ourselves are talking to a few OEMs because OEMs do not have the expertise of building anything of this sort. So they need, tech partners like us or someone else who has the expertise in vision-based safety systems. So a few names which you might have heard about in India, who are exploring a tech like this from us, as well as few others as well in the market, right? So that's the immediate thing. Now, where it can go next level, we all are talking about autonomous driving, correct? The technology that I shared is nothing but same, it works on same algorithms, right? Because the accuracy level in autonomous driving is 99.9999%. You can't afford to have 0.001% error. It has to be much lesser than that. So to keep that in mind, we have kept driver in mind and given the control of the same technology, but the control is with the driver to take the right decision. We spoke about GenAI. GenAI still requires human intervention, right? You still need to evaluate before you utilize this output. So that's first part in short, right? The second part on the what do I do with this, I've got this information. I did not get into the details, but there is a level of coachings available, right? Durga Dutt in the first session spoke about how it worked in the case of Zoom cars, where the same technology was deployed in 500 vehicles, 250 had it activated, 250 did not have it activated. And after 12 days of trips, because this keeps on coaching you through in-cabin alerts, through your app, and through your overall safety ecosystem that you have, where you take safety very seriously and drive some automated coaching, some manual coachings, right? But in the case of Zoom car, 250 vehicles which had got this tech activated reduced 51% less incidents of overspeeding, right? So it's a cycle, and we can talk about it in detail that what happens with that. Our team is out there, they can show the dashboard, how it is utilize the deep analytics which is available, and how the coaching is done, beyond just one-time alerting. Thank you for the question, though.
And on a generic level, when you talked about the training, right, that's where actually GenAI plays a big role today, right? There are a lot of training. Earlier what we had, a lot of documents to go through, right? Now you don't need to go through those documents because again, there is a limit to what we can read out, right? And memorize and keep it. Now it is pointed at the time of what you're doing and you want to know what it is. Out of the 1,000 pages of document, it gives you the relevant segment out. And if you want to create a video out of it, it can create a video out of it which can be used for training. You want to test, don't need to ask somebody to create a question paper. It automatically can create and give a different question for everybody to test it, whether people are going through the training or not. So GenAI is going to be a big enabler when it comes to the training.
Yeah, I think thank you. We are really out of time, but some of the panelists will be there outside. I'll be there outside. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer. And thank you. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Ravikant.
You all very much. Because I hope it was an enriching session. And let's hope carry back some good memories.